Welcome back to the channel, fellow aviators. In today's episode, we will be doing the tailwheel endorsement. Doing so should allow us to diversify the different types of missions that we've been currently doing. We could do aerial advertising, though we've already unlocked that, but we could do it in a tail dragger. With a little bit more, we can do search and rescue, and I think agricultural aviation. So 3 more things we could potentially do, which should help relieve the monotony of continually just doing cargo missions in R172. Having said that, let's just hop right over and let's get after it. All right, let's take a look at the briefing. Looks like we're just going to do a single circuit around the pattern, so that should be relatively easy. And taking off and landing and taxiing in a plane equipped with tailwheels is not easy as it might seem. That's true. It's probably going to be more difficult in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I find it's very hard to maintain a constant speed while I'm taxiing. Either I'm going too fast or too slow. So I'm not sure what everybody else has been experiencing. While taxiing, air tail draggers have a tendency to drift while turning on the ground. That is correct. Taking off, looks like we're talking about 4 left-leaning turning tendencies, slipstream, gyroscopic precession, P-factor, and torque. Every aircraft has that. I remember the Cub being particularly sensitive to that. I actually have my tailwheel endorsement. I had ferried an actor's airplane out to Salt Lake City from the East Coast, from New York. And once I got out there, he introduced me to a friend of his who happened to own a Cub, though the more traditional one, and took me up in it and got me actually checked out and got my tailwheel endorsement, and then told me I could fly his plane as much as he wanted. Had a great time out there that week. When landing, there are 2 ways of landing aircraft equipped with tailwheels: 3-point landings and wheel landings. A wheel landing implies that the main gear of the aircraft touches down before the tailwheel does. A 3-point landing occurs when pilots touch down with all 3 wheels at the same time. Both techniques have their share of advantages and drawbacks. For the purpose of this exam, we will opt for a 3-point landing, which should provide you with more ground authority after touchdown. So this is real important. Obviously, you have a chance of ground looping or driving the nose into the ground if you're not careful. While taking off and landing with tail draggers, overcorrection and side loading can lead to what is commonly referred to as a ground loop. There we go. A loss of aircraft control that somewhat resembles an automotive spin. To avoid losing control on the ground, perform smooth adjustments with the rudder, maintain center line, and keep the aircraft's center of gravity in line with the main wheels. All right. The important part: to acquire this certification, you will be required to taxi the aircraft from the parking spot, perform a tail high takeoff. That just means we're going to lift the tail before we pull up on the nose, follow a standard traffic pattern, perform a 3-point landing, and taxiing back to the parking spot. All right, let's go. All right, so let's just start this up. We will take off the chocks, engine cover, and hop right in.
As covered in our briefing, we'll be performing a standard traffic pattern around Miami's KLNA Airport with the Cub Crafter's X-Cub. Remember that tail draggers do not behave in the same way as tricycle-geared aircraft while taxiing, taking off, and landing. Try to maintain centerline and anticipate rear-wheel drift while turning on the taxiway. Keep your speed low while taxiing, and brake progressively while pitching back once you land to avoid flipping the aircraft over. Remember that once you get some speed on the runway, you will want to lift the tail of the aircraft by gently pushing forward on the stick. Once you are on the main gear and reach rotation speed, start gently pitching back to take off. Keep your feet on the rudder to brace for left-turning tendencies.
Alrighty, seems fairly simple enough. Let's get going.
Kilo Lima November Alpha Traffic Cub Crafters Alpha Alpha. Bravo India Kilo is taxiing to runway 10.
right, let's go ahead and taxi out. As you see, one of the issues when you fly any tailwind is just visibility. So if you're on a large enough taxiway, you'll often see tail draggers. You can slide S-turns so they can try to find the center line. Don't necessarily need to do that here in a Cub. You can just look out over the nose. But just taking my time coming out. And I will meet you on the runway.
Kilo Lima November Alpha Traffic Cub Crafters Alpha Alpha. Bravo India Kilo taking off runway 10 departure to the west.
Okay, and before we go, we can get ourselves all set up here. We'll do that here in just a second. All right, let's dial in an altitude for us. So we'll choose 1,000 feet. And looking down here, we see rotations around 44 knots, VY 64 knots. Don't think we particularly need flaps on this. We'll come down here, right click on heading, brings our heading bug directly ahead. And other than that, I think we are ready to go. All right, so let's just bring in our power smoothly. Roll forward on the stick and aft. And we're off. All right, already coming up on 1,000 feet. We'll start to level out, push forward. Just watching our altitude there. Yeah, still climbing. Let's lower that nose just a touch. And we'll pull back on throttle just a little bit, just to make it a little easier maintaining level flight. All right, so trying to keep our cross check up: airspeed, attitude, altitude. Getting up downwind of beam.
Kilo Lima November Alpha Traffic Cub Crafters Alpha Alpha. Bravo India Kilo 1 miles north 1000. Forward inbound to land runway 28.
All right. Get downwind of beam, take out a little bit of throttle, start our turn. Airspeed starting to decrease a little bit, looking to get under 70 knots to get our first notch of flaps in.
Try to land by making contact with all 3 wheels at the same time.
All right, bring in our first notch of flaps. It's called final. Once again, this leaves you very high here. Never been a big fan of.
Kilo Lima November Alpha Traffic Cub Crafters Alpha Alpha. Bravo India Kilo is on final runway 28 to land.
You can see if we look at the Pappy's up there, white over white. The angle's completely wrong, but we can make it work. We got a long runway, and we will not need a lot to land. All right, third and final notch of flaps. All right, 50, 55 knots, looks good. That wasn't a problem. Well, that was exciting. A little bit of back pressure as I brake. All right, do I turn my track IR on again? I think I get that, the light just coming through the window just right here, and it starts to mess it up. Oop. You can see how sensitive that braking is.
Kilo Lima November Alpha Traffic Cub Crafters Alpha Alpha. Bravo India Kilo is taxiing to parking.
I think in the next episode we'll probably look a little more in depth on how to fly the actual Cub. This was a fairly simple run through. Ah. And that should be it. It should be a nice simple taxi on the way in, and that hopefully we should get a max score on this. Might want to use a little bit of back stick as well as you come to a stop, just to try to keep that nose from driving into the ground. Keep your taxi speed slow. Nice floating airplanes. Perfect. All right, let's just put the brakes on. See how we did.
Great flying today. You've clearly shown that you have what it takes to fly taildraggers, and did so like a pro.
Alrighty, I think we call that a success. Alrighty, well, I think that's going to complete it for today's episode. Just a real quick episode. Matter of fact, I'm actually just about ready to head out on a 3-day trip with my airline. So just thought I'd do a very quick video for us all. Once again, I really appreciate all the support I've been getting over the last month or so. If you like what you see, please leave a comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care for now. Bye.